Hey, do you ever wonder why you sabotage yourself? Why you keep doing the things you say you don't want to do, but yet you don't do the things you say you do want to do? I might be able to help you with that. I want to share with you today some things that I've learned that have produced significant, actual, lasting change in my life, and I think they might help you also. So, we're going to go through this in three parts. First, we're going to talk about some definitions, and I know definitions are boring, but I think if you can get these definitions, just getting the definitions will be a big help for you because you can think about these as you go throughout your day. The second thing we're going to do is just walk through a few real life examples and kind of play out so you can get a better understanding of the definitions and how they work. And then the third thing we're going to do is then we're going to talk about, based on what we've learned, the definitions we've learned, and going through the real life examples, how do we now apply this directly to our life so that we get that change that we want so we don't continue to sabotage ourselves? So let's get started here. I just want to tell you I got a board over here. It's got a lot of points on it I want to make. I'll be looking over there every once in a while, so I'm not looking away from you. I'm just trying to get to my next point because I got a lot and I couldn't remember them all without having them over here on the board. So first are definitions, and we're going to start with something called values, and then we're going to break the values down into three different categories. So values, as I'm using the word value here, value means it is the way that you see the world, the way you think the world operates, the way that things operate. It is how you see reality. It is your view of reality. And so there's three different levels of your view or your values regarding reality and the way things really work. The first one is what I call your public values. And public values are what you tell people that you believe about reality and the way things are and the way things work. Okay? And unfortunately, you'll see this a lot in politics. You'll see people sharing with others how they see reality, which is not really how they see reality, but they're professing it or saying it publicly because they want to win you over. That's public values. And I'm not saying we're all politicians and we all mislead people in what we actually believe. The second category of values is what I call private values. And these are interesting because these are what you tell yourself that you believe. Okay? These are the things you tell yourself about how you view reality, about how you view the world, about how you believe things actually work in the world. Okay? And your private values can be different from your public values. Now, I think most people, unless you're intentionally trying to mislead people, your private values and your public values are usually the same. Only for those people trying to deceive someone would your public values and your private values be different. Now, the third category of values is what I call your core values, and this is where it really gets interesting. Because I classify the core values. Now, this is what you actually believe about reality. This is what you actually believe about how the world operates. The reason I say that is the public values that you profess out loud and the private values that you try to convince yourself that you believe, you can violate those sometimes. You will violate those sometimes if the cost is too high to not violate those. If the cost is so high to stand for those values that you've told people you believe or that you've told yourself you believe, if the cost is too high to stand up or stand behind those values, you will violate them. But your core values, that is who you really are and what you actually think about how things work in the world, you will never violate those. Those will never be violated. And what's scary to me is that many times what I tell myself I believe, my private values, what I actually think I believe about the way the world works, I will find there are instances where my core values take over and I find out what I really believe, my core values about the way things work in the world, are not what I had been telling myself I believe, and that comes out in the actions that I take. Okay? Public values, you tell people. Private values, you tell yourself you believe it. Core values are what you really believe, and they are most readily revealed in tough times, when there's a cost to standing for your values, that's when your core values are going to come out, because you'll never violate your core values. So let's get into some real life examples. Let's talk about gravity, for instance. Okay, gravity. I tell people publicly, my public values are, I believe gravity is real. My private values, I tell myself, is that I believe gravity is real. The test is going to come of what I really believe when I stand at the edge of a very tall building. Will I step off the edge of that building? And the answer is no, because my core values, what I truly believe about reality, what I truly believe about gravity, is that it's real. And if I step off the edge of that high building, I'm going to fall and splatter on the ground. So my core values, what I really believe in this case, are the same as my private values, are the same as my public values. Right? That's example number one. Example number two is I tell people I always stand behind my friends. I am always there for my friends. My private values, because I'm not a person that's trying to deceive anybody, so usually what I say in public are my values, are also what I tell myself privately that I believe. My private value is I always stand behind my friends. My friends can always count on me. I'll always be there for them no matter what. Situation arises. One of my good friends who I've told, I'm always there for you, man. No matter what happens, you can always count on me. He gets in some serious legal trouble. And as I think this through, I realize if I am associated with him, then I may be associated with his illegal activities just by being associated with him. I may get myself in some trouble. Even though I didn't do it, I may get caught up in his web of illegal activities and the charges against him. So I make the decision, what is best for myself and best for my family is to distance ourselves from him, so that there's not that possibility of me getting caught up in something that I didn't even do, but just by association I might be. The point is, my true core values of how I see the world works and what is best for me is going to trump what I think is best for my friend. And so my true character comes out in the fact that I will always be there and stand up and stand for and stand behind my friends, unless the cost is too great for me. And then I won't stand behind my friends, because my true core values of how I see the world operates is that is a very risky, dangerous move for me to stand with this friend in this difficult situation. Example number three. I tell people I'm an honest person. You can believe me. I don't lie. I tell myself on the inside, hey, Brad, you're an honest person. You don't lie. It's been a very rough year for us financially this year. My family and I are struggling. I've done a lot of work on the side and been paid in cash, quite a bit of cash through the year, because we needed the extra money. Now it's time to file my taxes. I am required by law to claim that money that I was paid in cash as income because I was doing it as work, as a job. But I realize if I don't claim that money on my taxes, that will be several $1,000s in my family's pocket that we could really use right now because we are struggling for money. So I decide it is best for my family if I don't claim that money. I mean, there are millions and millions of tax returns filed. They're not going to miss this few measly $1,000. The government won't miss it. They'll never catch me. They'll never look into it. I'm okay. I'll only do it this one time. Whatever. I can use a lot of excuses. But I'm very willing to violate my public values and my private values, because my core value is, when it comes down to it, I am willing to lie and cheat if it will help my family. My true character is coming out. The way I truly see the world is that it is best for me sometimes to lie and to cheat and to be dishonest for what I consider the good of my family. And then the last example, another one with money, and I think if you will evaluate yourself with these three categories of values and do it around different situations of money, I think that is one of the best indicators to give you an idea of what you truly believe about the way the world operates. Okay? The last one is, especially you'll hear this with Christians a lot, they'll say you can't outgive God. Okay, great, because they say, in Luke and in Matthew 6, Luke 12, Jesus promises if you put the kingdom of God first, he will take care of meeting all of your needs. He will take care of you. So here's the scenario. You have $100 to your name in the bank. You don't get paid for another 7 days. That's all the money you have to live between now and then. And you only have a couple of meals, a couple of days of food in the house. You are firmly convinced that God has told you you need to give that $100 to the young widow who just became a widow recently that lives down the street and has 3 kids and they are struggling and have nothing to eat. You need to give that money to her. Now, you've told people publicly, I am willing to give sacrificially, and I know I can't outgive God, so I'm willing to give whatever that he asked me to give because you can't outgive him. You tell yourself you are willing to give sacrificially and that you trust God will provide for your needs when you give sacrificially. He will take care of you. It's okay. But you're looking at your wife or your husband and you're looking at your kids and you're saying, if I give this $100 away, we are not going to have any money to buy food, and we're going to go essentially 5 days without food because I don't see any way to get food between now and 7 days when I get paid after we eat up the little bit of food that we have. So the question becomes, are you going to do what you think God is telling you and trust that God is going to keep his promise that he'll take care of you when you put his kingdom first? Or are you going to disobey and not do what God says because deep down your true character is, I tell people I believe that, but deep down my core value is I don't really trust God to come through. That's revealing your character, the way you think reality is, the way you understand reality, and the way things work in the world. So those are the examples. Now, how are we going to use these definitions and just walking through these examples and apply it to our life? Because I need you to understand something. Your true character, or what we're calling your core values, will always, always, always take over when things become potentially costly in your life. Always take over. So you need to understand that. Because what we do many times is we try to focus on behavior modification, right? We try to change our behavior. Let's just be more disciplined. Let's come up with routines. Let's go through a morning routine. And what happens? You're continuing to try to force yourself to do stuff that you don't really believe is in the best interest of yourself or your family or whoever, because you're violating your core values. Your core values are telling you that's not the way the world works. That's not the way things work. And so you're trying to continue to invest a lot of energy into overcoming, violating your core values. And you're trying to continue to get more and more and more motivation, self-motivation, outside motivation to get yourself to violate your core values. That's what behavior modification focuses on. And that's the key that I've found that I battled for years. I'm focusing on trying to modify my behavior, and what I need to be doing is focus on modifying my character, and I've come to understand what that really means is I need to change my core values. Okay? I need to change the operating system, if you want to put it in computer terms, the operating system, which are my core values, which will take over and run my life when things get risky. So, what is the process? And this is what we're getting to, and I think this is the real beneficial part. I think the definitions are, and then this. What is the process of changing your operating system or changing your core values so that your core values will automatically take over when things get risky, and they will lead you such that you will naturally, easily, and routinely do the things you say you want to do and not do the things you say you don't want to do? Well, here's the 4-step process that I found, and I use as an analogy. This is back in the day, but you used to get owner's manuals with your car, which told you how to do all kind of stuff in your car, all kind of repairs in your car. Now, I don't know much about cars, so I had to completely rely on that owner's manual that it was true and accurate, that it knew what it was talking about, and if I did what it said, I would get the results that it said. So here's the 4-step process of beginning to change your character or change your core values. First is, you have to make the decision. I had to make the decision that that owner's manual knew what it was talking about. I didn't have a lot of data or proof to verify that, but I just had to make that decision. I'm going to believe that owner's manual knows what it's talking about. And then because I believe it knows what it's talking about, I'm going to begin to do what that owner's manual says. So I put into action what the owner's manual said. I did what the owner's manual said to do. Then the next step, after I did what the owner's manual said to do, I evaluated the results to see if I got the results that the owner's manual said I would get if I did what the owner's manual said it would do. In other words, I'm checking to make sure the owner's manual's description of reality dealing with my car was accurate. And when I saw that I was getting the results that the owner's manual said I would get, when I did what the owner's manual said I would do, then my trust and my belief that owner's manual knew what it was talking about skyrocketed. And the more I went through this process of doing what the owner's manual said, evaluating the results and seeing I got the results that the owner's manual said I would get, my confidence and my trust and my belief in that owner's manual and that it knew what it was talking about continued to go up and up and up and up. And if you want to grow as a disciple of Jesus, you want to mature as a disciple of Jesus, this is what you have to do. You can't just go out there and try to suck it up and gin up all this energy and motivation and discipline to continue to do what Jesus asks you to do every day, because it's not going to happen. How many of you have failed? I failed so much doing that. I thought, well, if I just try harder, if I just have more motivation, if I just have more dedication, I can do this. And it wasn't working. What we need to do is focus on getting ourselves to the point where our character, our core values are in line with Jesus' core values, such that our operating system, our core values, are the same operating system that Jesus has, so that we see reality the way Jesus describes reality. And then we will be willing to do what Jesus said, because our core values tells us that he is correct. And our core value, our character, will take over when things get dicey, and we will just naturally, easily, and routinely do the things that Jesus says without even thinking about it. So, let's walk through the process, the 4-step process, as we did with the owner's manual for the car. First, you have to make the decision, and maybe with very little data behind you or proof, that Jesus knows what he's talking about, that Jesus understands reality. He understands the way the world works. He understands the way humans work. And he is telling you exactly what is the best thing to do. You have to make that decision. And then, after making that decision, then you say, I'm going to begin to act as if what Jesus says is true, and that means I'm going to start doing what Jesus said. It may not make sense to me. It may seem very risky. It may seem 180 degrees out from what my core values are telling me I should be doing. But you just start doing them. And yeah, it may take some motivation, it may take some courage, it may take investing a lot of energy in the beginning. And you begin to do what Jesus says. And after you do it, you then evaluate, are the results of doing what Jesus said the results would be? And if they are, then what happens to your belief and your confidence and your faith that Jesus knows what he's talking about? It goes up, right? Skyrockets up. And you just keep repeating this process. You find something else that Jesus said to do, and then you do that. And the really cool thing is, every time you do that, and then you evaluate the results of obeying Jesus, and you find out he knew what he was talking about because the results he said would happen are what happened, your faith and confidence and belief continue to go up, and your operating system, your core values, your most deep you, who you are, your core values begin to get replaced by the new core values of Jesus. In other words, The incorrect core values you've had, that you've developed over your life about the way things work, are now being replaced by these new ones from Jesus, who knows exactly how things work in the real world. And so you're getting a system update. And eventually your system is updated to the point where you find yourself naturally, easily, and routinely doing, without even thinking about it, what Jesus said. And so you don't have to go through everything that Jesus said to do and go through this process. You go through this a few times and you will begin to see that your core values have been changed, your character has been changed, so that you're doing a lot of other things that Jesus said to do without even thinking about it. And you just continue this process on and on and on. And this is the maturing, growing process, or what is sometimes known as discipleship. Now, if you're not a follower of Jesus, that's okay. I would be happy to talk with you about that. But you can still apply this process. But what the key is whatever you're using as your owner's manual. A Christian will use the Bible as their owner's manual. You have to make sure that what you're basing it on, what you're using as your owner's manual to put your faith in, to make the decision that it knows what it's talking about, it's got to be accurate. It's got to be true. Or at least you have to have a very, very good, reasonable assumption that it's true. And then you just go through this 4-step process. So how is it that you stop sabotaging yourself by doing the things you say you don't want to do and not doing the things you say you want to do? You start by going through this 4-step process. Okay? And the funny thing is, what is kind of contradictory is, you're trying to change your behavior by changing your character, but the first step in changing your character or changing your core values is by changing your actions. But the thing is, that initial changing of your actions to do what the owner's manual, or for Christians, what the Bible says or what Jesus says, you don't have to continue to get up all that energy and courage and motivation to continue to do it. Because what you're going to find is that your core values begin to change and you naturally and easily do it. Hey, if you like this, subscribe, hit the like button, and if you really liked it, share it with somebody else, because by doing all those, if you think this is good, by doing all those, YouTube will send it out for more people to get a chance to watch it. Hey, God bless and have a great day.